late 99, early 2000, I got a chance to sit down with you and you showed me a pilot of Buttervision. And when I seen it, I immediately thought, wow, this is going to be something really special.
Buttervision was a movement. It is a movement, you know, because the emergence is upon you.
You know, we had Dex at the top, and then we had kind of everybody filtering down underneath Dex, and what ended up happening is a lot of creativity happened. A lot of really smart creative things happened.
Being on the forefront of the digital media revolution.
He was a visionary. He saw it before. He knew at the time that at a certain point everybody gonna have a camera.
But also he's a caring person and like a mentor. That's why a lot of people always came to his place. Nipsey Hussle, Cuzzy, Rick James, Lisa Ray. They all came to Dex.
Dexter's is like a a house and a back house, and it's like right off of Slauson.
Before YouTube, Dexter had this idea.
I understand that whole kind. It was actually like a fellow. Going back even further than Contagious, it's actually a fellow by the name of Dexter that kind of got the wheels turning with the whole F the middleman concept.
Yeah, Dexter Browne, man. That was a early supporter, not only of myself, but of my whole squad. You know, he's from Trinidad, and he bought a house in our neighborhood. Him and his wife and his 3 kids. Well, he didn't have no kids at that time, and he ended up having a daughter and 2 other daughters. He's a photographer, he's a video editor, and he's just a creative spirit. And you know what I'm saying, he basically opened his backyard for us, bought studio equipment, and gave us an outlet at a time when it was really important for us to have somewhere to go.
What was the impact of Dexter Browne's intervention in LA with the gangs and the boys there?
You know, Buttervision, we blew it up. We had Buttervision on fire in the early 2000s. And we got so much footage that I'm really excited for you guys to see.
It's a combination of music, beauty, urban lifestyle, Black Hollywood, all rolled into one kaleidoscope of a visual piece that can only be created and produced by my good friend and colleague, Dexter Browne.
I wish we had the opportunity to portray that, because I feel like we had a good idea there with Buttervision. I believe that Buttervision could have portrayed urban entertainment in a better way, and it would have helped. And it did help people like me. For example, I came from Africa and nobody knew who I was. I interviewed from porn stars to basketball stars to rap stars to R&B singers. You know, we just wanted to show people the urban side of things.
Because Dexter is extremely intelligent. He gives his vision. That's why Buttervision.
The thing is that you know, I've spoken in the past about African golden ages and the transformation of gang boys and boys earmarked for destruction into gods. You know, the creation of geniuses of poetry and word and invention and business out of boys who were earmarked for death by a society, by the intervention of African music, shifts of rhythm and stuff like that. But there's something very specific that happens in most of the cases at ground zero when you go into the stories.
Cool. So I start off with the first point in terms of the value of relationships. And one in particular which stands out in the book is a character, a person I should say, you mentioned in detail in this chapter on the hood. and that's Dexter Browne. And it struck me as a very important conversation to have because Dexter has a connection to Howard, and it just shows you the reach of Howard and some of the things that we're talking about today.
Dexter Browne is one of the wonderful voices who trusted me to tell their story in my book, Marathon Don't Stop. I had never heard of him when I was researching the project, and he actually reached out to me via Facebook message when he heard that this book was going to happen. He's been left out of a lot of the histories of Nipsey Hussle's career, but I think it's very important that he be put in his proper perspective because, you know, without Dexter Browne, I'm not sure that we would even be talking about Nipsey Hussle today. He is a graduate of Howard, as you mentioned, a civil engineer by training, but a photographer by passion. And he and his wife, who was an art director for Jay Prince at Rap-A-Lot Records, they met at Howard and found their way to Los Angeles, bought a house there and started a new life. They wanted to live in a Black neighborhood. They wanted to give back to the community. That was a stated intention of theirs. And in the process of doing that, they met a gentleman named Cuzzy Capone, who informed them that they were also living in the heart of Rolling 60s neighborhood. And Dexter, rather than being alarmed by that, saw that as a creative opportunity, and he wanted to photograph and document the street culture of his neighborhood. And he invited Cuzzy into his home, where Cuzzy was delighted to find out that Dexter also had set up a recording studio. Although he himself was not a musician or even a producer, he knew that hip hop would be part of his creative adventure that he was setting off on in Los Angeles. And pretty soon, a skinny kid named Ermias started coming around, and his first interaction with Dexter was he opened up his code and had floppy disks for sale with software, Fruity Loops and Photoshop, things that he thought Dexter might be able to use. And so this was Nipsey Hussle before he went by the name Nipsey Hussle, and Ermias Ascadome eventually became part of the crew of young creatives who were finding refuge in Dexter Browne's home. For, I believe it was a 7-year period, he was essentially living on and off in Dexter's house and learning about making music, learning about branding. So many lessons about media and entrepreneurship were learned in that home. And that was also where some of the earliest mixtapes were made. Slauson Boy Volume 1 is, you know, on the streaming services, but there were others which are not on the internet, which were created there in that house. So Dexter played a huge role. And I'm very pleased that the Marathon Don't Stop puts him in his proper perspective as a key advocate for Nipsey at a crucial point in his development. And that's actually where the name Nipsey Hussle was bestowed on Ermias Ascadome, was in Dexter's house by Young Gooch, another of the creatives who were attracted to this creative home that Dexter called Buttervision.
How much we should always take advantage of every single minute we get. Every second that's gone, we never get back.
basically left his own career, which was engineering, to do this with us. That means he believed in it.
Now about to bust his ass.
Gutter land, we all hustling for that upper land, where we raised by our mothers and no other man. Through the shades, granny watching, she don't understand, but through the days found a plot to end that hunger, man. And through the days, coppers watching undercover vans. Mama at work for the man while I assert my plan. The Glock 40 or the Nina, I serve like Serena and concrete. Urban arenas, Cali got a hold on us. It's like my soul is controlled by demons and gold, and like my feeling from my foe can't tell my friend from my foe. My bitch from the O's, truth from the lies, and that's all I suppose. It's future for me, it's not seeming too stable. I got the rhymes able and I'm Kane, and yes indeed I get Kane with the able with the Kane. What's my name? Say it, and I still remain off the Richter. The rhymes never written, it's real, ain't got no deal. I'm 17, I'm up on the hills and still respect me. My name get respect in the hood. I'm destined for dollar bills, riches, and Fleetwoods, trying to roll the street indiscreet with my peeps blowing on like green lime leaves. And get it, creasing my T's and my khaki, it's me. Creasing my T's and my khaki, it's me.
Yeah, on that side, nigga. BV 2003.
Me and my folks from Montreal.
But you know, this was where that whole concept of F the middleman is born, you know, and the independent streak that Dexter was, you know, teaching the young men who were working in his home. But Nipsey really took it to heart at that moment, and that's the beginning of the whole marathon. Honestly, begins in that meeting, I believe.
So Dexter's intervention is to show us that golden ages is something that we could consciously wrote. It is not something that is accidental and stuff. It's that it is lightning that we could capture in a bottle, and that is the difference between this particular phenomena and past phenomena. Dexter Browne bottled lightning in LA.
And I picked up a couple of things from that chapter that stood out to me. And there are key phrases and words that I kind of captured. One was digital gorilla, right? Dexter used, and I thought that was timely, ahead of its time based on the time frame you're talking about. And the second quote, in part, says they should be releasing raw, uncut culture that would break the chains of digital slavery. And I hear,
and our job is to put the pianos in the ways of those boys, but we haven't been doing that, and we never tested the hypothesis that if we intervene in those ways it could happen. Dexter Browne intervened in that way. He put the keyboard, computers, cameras, and all this stuff in the parts of those boys and transformed them from gang boys into demigods, geniuses. And of course Nipsey was the kind of apotheosis of that particular phenomena.
It's not easy to find yourself, and Dexter Browne kind of helped me find myself in LA easily, because it doesn't matter where we went. When Dexter Browne said this is Urok, people will accept me.
Listen, Dexter Browne see me real official. I seen it coming, I seen it going, I seen it rising. You know what? And when it's official, it never falls. Official like a referee's whistle. Yes, sir. Big Bob in the house. Yo, holla at us.
You know, because we be hanging out, kicking it. It was a family. Buttervision is a family. You know, a creative family where we wanted to change the way people looked at content. You know, the content that we put out, we want it to be hot. We want it to be sexy. We want it to be edgy, raw, mixed in with the hip hop and the music that we created, that, you know, Nipsey created, Cuzzy created. We would put that and mix that into there. And, you know, before they were Slauson Boy, they were BV boys. You know what I mean? And
that was really unique for anybody in any neighborhood. I don't think people were really doing what we were doing. And I think that we were constantly fighting this, you know, jargon landscape and creating these terms that people weren't understanding. And way of thinking that people weren't understanding, and we were constantly trying to get people on board, and it was just this continuum of what we were doing every day. We were fighting mediocrity with our own way. We were trying to make things happen for us the only way that we knew how. And it turns out that the way that we were doing this is now 10 years after everything kind of slowed down for us a little bit, the way that everybody started doing it, the way that people from our own collective really started doing it. It just really was a blueprint for how you can make it work for you, you know, how you can make the democratization of media work for you.
You know what I mean, Slauson boy. And that's the angle that we trying to come into this game under. You know, it pretty much sum up our whole presence and where we at with it, you know, geographically, as far as, you know, the street we all off of. And it also got some history behind it, you know. I was one of the original names of the hood that we from, you know. And then again, we all grind off Slauson every day of the week, you know what I'm talking about? That's where we at with it, so, you know. They got a lot of different meanings for us, but we really just been in the neighborhood pressing our line and on a promotional tip and just trying to get our brand in their face and in their minds, you know what I mean? On the music, on the videos, just constantly having that shit in their ear. So, you know, it mean our whole pitch to the game, to the world, you know what I mean? It's like, this us, this our style, this our sound, this our flavor, Slauson boy, you know what I mean?
And I think that everybody that was a part of that collective, it changed them for sure. And I guarantee that at any point in time, you know, that collective, if we weren't a part of that, nobody would be where they're at today.
Only the strong survive. And I think that was one thing about Buttervision, is that everybody's talent was so solid that was a part of that movement. You know, from the Slauson boys to everybody else that was involved, they all went to the top, and they're still there right now. And I think that's one unique thing that Buttervision did. You know, it was like I said, that safe haven, that artist sanctuary.
And we were fighting for, you know, to push the bandwidth so that we can make a YouTube before there was a YouTube, so that we could sell music online before it was possible to sell music online, sell video clips, sell stock photography, everything. I mean, we were just trying to make things happen in our little corner. And I think we were really far ahead of the game, because a lot of the things that we tried to do, a lot of the things that we did do were copied by others, were emulated nonstop. And I think our collective itself was really unique. I don't think there was a lot of collectives back then. And for me, Buttervision was my first artist collective. It's been the only artist collective I've ever been a part of.
Mate, we was working on something called BVTV. It's what we call YouTube now.
I'm not trying to say I'm biased, but yo, we did it to the fullest. The fullest.
For just, you know, just that small amount of time that I was there, I grew tremendously as a photographer, and that just changed me. You know, it changed me entirely.
But what I like about Dexter and what makes him special is that he overthinks everything. He's revolutionary in his way of thinking, the way of detailing everything. He likes to detail things. He's like not autistic, but he sees everything, you know.
All the experiences that we had together. I mean, there won't be a person in that collective that today you couldn't call upon and ask for a favor. You know, anybody would drop a hat. Split second drop of a hat, we'd be there for each other. And it was a brotherhood, it was friendship, it was loyalty, it was camaraderie, it was artistry in its real raw form. And that's something that is impossible to come by in this cookie cutter, fake Instagram, social media world. You know, we didn't have any of that shit. We weren't trying to impress anybody but ourselves.
it's safe to say that Dexter Browne was a pivotal point in, not Dexter Browne and Buttervision was a pivotal point in this neighborhood.
But big shout out to Dexter Browne, Lisa Browne, my family, man. I love y'all forever, man. They gave us an outlet at a real important time, for sure.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of the book, that whole part about Dexter, and that was just really, really cool, really cool.
We're here, nigga, guerrilla motherfucking warfare, nigga.
You're watching Buttervision. Who would have known they were so fucking funky? They're burning your roof down. Let me tell you something. Buttervision is running the fucking market out there. Media gorillas.
It's a continuum, so it never really ends.
So if we had the opportunity at the time to get someone that would back it up financially, there's no doubt in my mind that Buttervision would have been bigger than what YouTube is today. I'm 100% certain about that.
I think this piece is going to be something that's going to be appreciated by the masses. Nothing like this has been produced for mainstream media before.